Okay.
I think it's afraid.
Huh?
It's afraid.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
No, so the idea behind it was that even they said to me, you're going to see that when you do this class that it's going to be widely attended, that nobody's going to show up, but you got to just keep doing it. You got to be consistent because I can't predict who's going to show up. I can't predict who wants to hear from me. I can't predict who has gone to 16 classes already before and doesn't want to stay at 1 o'clock. But the idea was Thursday, every other Thursday, because their idea is to get people from the other market centers, from Aventura and Fort Lauderdale, and this is the day that they don't have their meetings and it's not busy, so that they could potentially be coming as well. So
weekly advertised between Fort Lauderdale and Aventura?
yeah, there is. Those guys do it, but you see that it hasn't really resonated into much.
It's their loss. Fuck 'em.
Remember, Wayne's on the recording. All right.
Oh shit.
Let's keep it up, Wayne. Keep it up.
You're gonna be kicked.
No, he won't.
Okay,
I can't. Everybody gets a reprieve. Okay. So again, if you have been, who hasn't been in the class? So we have 2. So this is a different class if you've been to any. Are you new?
No, I'm Melissa's assistant.
You're what?
I'm Melissa's assistant.
Oh, nice. And I know you're new because we met. So it's a little different than the other classes because this class is more about just kind of getting into the reality of the situation where everybody is in their own respective business and just kind of owning it and then just trying to get better than where you were 30 seconds ago. And as opposed to just kind of a cut and paste, this is what you should do and this is the course and all that. This is completely different. So we start out, this part, this frame is the same. I have a small vested interest in this market center. So obviously I'd like to see everybody do well. But even if I didn't have an interest, I'd probably still help out if they asked me to. But everybody that's in the class, and I think everybody that joins KW has some kind of learning-based mentality, I think. That everybody kind of wants to learn more. And I think that's a good thing to have because you have a lot of people trying to pay it forward here. And that's what I'm going to try and do. So let's go to the page that I know everybody loves, which is divulging everybody's current situation. So, it's good, it's bad, I'm indifferent to it because I'm desensitized whether I have 0 listings or 100. Neither one is really relevant. It's an is. If you have 5 listings, great. If you have 0, you need to get more. If you have 100, there's a guy out there with 200. So it really doesn't really matter. The idea is just to kind of peg it so you can kind of gauge yourself. Because if you have 5 listings or 5 closings or 5 pendings, and you still don't feel like you're doing well financially or you don't feel like you're doing well emotionally, then you know that something in that metric has to change. Okay, so I can't tell you how to feel. Somebody could have 1 listing or 1 pending or 1 sale and feel spectacular. And I could have, 5 listings and a couple pendings and I feel like the world is crashing. So everybody's different, but at least if you have it, if you're tracking it, you'll know when you feel good about yourself and your business. So I'll start. 16 years in the business, 16 listings, 3 pendings, and I changed it from today's date, since we all know, to rate yourself, like 0 to 10 or whatever. So like for me, this is like, I would say this is like a 4 or 5 for me. Only because the number of pendings that I really need based on
Expenses.
Yeah. It's just I need more activity. So basically what it translates to for me is that I need more listings.
4 out of 5 out of 5 or 10?
10. Yeah. And even if I had just so you understand how the critique of myself, if I had 100 listings and 90 pendings, it wouldn't be a 10. Like I just don't.
Oh, you're so modest.
But that's how it goes. You want to push.
100%.
All right. So who's next?
Navy, go.
Latoya, I have 2 months in the business, 0 listings, 1 pending sale, and I'm at about a 1.8.
Bullshit. You're Navy. You're 10.
So that's 3 times he's on for cursing. Remember, it's being recorded. No, it's fine. When everybody asks, who's that guy in the back? I'll hashtag Wayne Hockrow out there. All right. So no, that's good. 1.8. So she's reduced it to a decimal. All right. So listen, 1.8. It is what it is. It's your rating. Nobody else is rating you. You know, this is the cool part of it. You know where you are, and so the goal of the class isn't really to call out anybody. The goal of the class is if you come in here 2 weeks later and you're at a 3.0, while that may seem bad to somebody else, you know relative to where you were that you're getting better. All right, next.
Wayne, with the foul mouth on the recording. I don't mean it. How many years in business? 12 with mortgage, 6 with real estate, total of 18. I just sold my 2 listings, 3 pendings. Rate yourself. Yeah, I'm a 10.
See, he's a 10.
This
Wait.
week.
All right.
This week.
Laura Zaconsi.
Yeah, wait, is
Just
it pen
started
broken?
my 4th year.
The pen broken or something?
I have 2 pending, no listings, and I rate myself at probably like 5 now.
Never be middle of the road, so I know where you're going.
Well,
Well,
it's her rating system.
I know, you gotta be below it or above it.
Well, that's your opinion.
I know.
Next.
Gonzalo, in the year 4 years in the business, 5 active, 1 pending, 3.
All right. Next.
I'll go. Craig Sarnoff, 3 years and 2 listings, 2 pending. I'll say a 4.
All right.
Shrey Bardwaj, been in the business over a year, 2 listings, 1 pending, and a 1.
Martha Clark, a month and a half, 0.
Well, you can only go up. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Carol. 0 years in the business, like 2 days.
Good.
So no listings, no pending sales. So I don't have business experience from which to rate myself. But as a motivated individual, I would say a 9. And the only reason I'm not saying 10 is because I always have room to grow.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
like that. I like that.
Anyone else?
Carla, I'm an admin, so I'm speaking on behalf of the team.
Yeah.
She's been in business for 3 years. She has currently 4 listings and she has 4 pendings at the moment. For the amount of time that I've been with her, I feel like I would give her a 6 because I've seen her do more pendings and more listings.
Mm-hmm. This is you're with Melissa?
Yes.
Yeah, she's good. She's getting after it. So, how do you think she would rate herself?
Knowing how hard she is on herself, I feel like she would probably go lower. Because, like I said, she's like I think in August she had 10 closings.
Right.
So I feel like right now she feels like okay, this is not enough.
Right. Okay, so it's good. Jake, you in or no?
Yeah, he's in.
Yeah, 3 years in the business. Right now I have no listings and I have 1 pending. And I give myself like a 2.
All right, so look, it is what it is. Like I said, this is not a knock on anybody. Bottom line is that if you left the class right now, okay, you'd have a better gauge of how you're doing in this business than the other 300 agents that are at this firm right now. Because the truth of the matter is that most agents won't even acknowledge how they're doing because they don't want to admit how they're doing. You know, they just would rather kind of hide behind the rock. And, you know, the fact that you're getting real with yourself and actually acknowledging this and saying it out loud and basically saying I need to do more is going to be a catalyst for change. Believe me, it will. Because you'll leave here and you'll be like, I didn't like what I said, or I'm not happy with where I'm at. And the last thing I'm going to do if I come back to this crazy class is have the same rating. You're going to want to do more. So let me see if I can get, I'm not really great at this. So today's topic, okay. So I think I can do it from here up. Just bear with me on this.
Push the arrow.
Any of you guys see this movie? Remember the Titans?
Yes.
It was a
Okay.
good movie.
Here's pretty much today's topic.
Getting on the Ducks. Great scene.
Good morning, coaches. How are you? How are you? It's good, Tate. Just wanted to let you know what the offense is doing.
Oh, skinny playbook, ain't it?
Well, I run 6 plays, split beers like novocaine. Just getting time always works. See you on the bus.
That's it. All right. Now, hopefully this will work. Now, I love that movie. And Denzel Washington's one of my favorite actors. But the reason why I love that scene is because if you've seen the movie, it's all about simplicity. Okay, the whole movie is about we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and all we got to do is execute. That's it. That's the entire movie. The difference is that they actually did it. All right?
But they had trouble doing it because
They-
not only was it simplicity to get to be a perfect team, but going along in that particular year, they were flooded with racism.
No, of course, but all I'm saying is that you've heard anybody that's been to Bold, you've heard that mantra. Where is it? Simple. Where is it? It's on the wall somewhere.
Success is simple,
Okay,
not easy.
success is simple, not easy. That's basically what it is right there, okay? So I've preached this the entire way through the first 3 sessions that if you only would do what you say you're going to do or know that you're supposed to do, this job gets much easier. So here's the reality. And, some people are going to disagree with me on this, but I promise you this is the reality. This job has zero to do with selling, really. And everything to do with systems and models and methods. And if you apply that, you become a star. If you try and just break this down to I can just do whatever I want throughout the day, and as long as I'm a good salesperson, this is all going to work out. It doesn't work like that. It's just that you see this part that I wrote in yellow. That's basically what ends up happening with everybody in this industry, where if I say to you, you know what to do, everybody says they know what to do. Nobody agrees that they wouldn't do it. If I said, you're supposed to lead generate, who's going to disagree with me? If I say, you're supposed to time block, if you're supposed to go out there and network, if you're supposed to go out there and put people in a database, if you're supposed to, whatever I say, I'm not going to get much resistance. The resistance comes with actually doing the task. Because there's not a person in this firm that would say that what I just said isn't accurate. How many of those people do it though? Here, let's just by a show of hands or shouting. Does anybody not agree with this? I mean, believe me, I can take it. So, and you all agree that if everybody did even remotely what they were supposed to do, that top 20 board would change constantly. It wouldn't be the same people. It's not, let me say this in the nicest way that I can. The top 20 boards that you guys see every month are not because they're so good. It's because everybody else doesn't do anything. That's how it works. If everybody else did something, that board would change all the time. Case in point, I don't think I was on the board last month.
No, you weren't.
I didn't do anything. I didn't close something.
You went on vacation, include your mind.
Okay, but it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that you have to constantly produce. If you don't, then somebody will be there to take your place. And I mean, it's not that hard to produce. If you do, I don't know how to do this. I don't know. I guess I can't do it. If you do the few little things, so that begs the question. Why would an agent refuse to do what they know needs to be done? I have my own opinion on this, but I'm curious.
Lazy.
Lazy. Sounds pretty accurate. Anyone else?
For me at this point, being a new agent is more so of the fear of what's going to happen altogether versus not just the rejection or anything. It's just, okay, if it do work out like crap, will I be able to handle when these listings come in and these buyers come in?
Yep, I get it. Anyone else want to chime in?
Doing uncomfortable things.
Yep.
Some people are not disciplined on themselves and need a real job instead of their own business.
Okay, I agree with everything everybody's saying. Anybody else? This is, you don't feel free. This is us talking here. So.
Afraid of messing up, just like.
I'm down with that.
The lack of knowing where to the 10 conversations, 10 contacts, 10 notes a day. It's okay, I've done it in this area, I've done it in this area. It's just the concept of knowing where to go and constantly keeping those numbers where they're supposed to be day to day to day.
So you got, I'm hearing a lot of what I was thinking. Anybody else want to add anything before I...
That's all it is. For me, it is pretty much that it's going to be really, really hard. But I'm going to have to say no to a lot of things, and it's going to be super hard. That sometimes I feel like, you know what, I'm just going to do a little bit because I don't want to go too hard, and then I waste my time for 6 months, or waste my time for a year.
Because you're not getting the results?
Yeah, that's
Spreading
really
yourself
like,
too thin, it sounds like, and less is more sometimes.
I get it. No, I know what I'm doing wrong, that all I have to do is really give it my all 100%, and then if it works, great, and if it doesn't, do something else. But it's that's just what it is. I know it's going to take probably a year of working super, super hard, and then what if it doesn't work? Like if it doesn't work.
Right. Okay. So that's fear. That's fear that you're on the wrong path.
One more thing, like what happens if I wake up every single day at 4 a.m., go to the gym, come, lead generate, follow up, door knock, do this, do that, invest all this money. A year later, I'm like, nothing happened. That's one thing. That I'm at the point that I told myself, stop doing that. Just give it 100% for a year and see and believe that it's going to work.
Right.
And it will work.
Okay. So I think everybody's made a really valid contribution. And so what I'll say is that I think that the theme of it, including Jake's comment about laziness, boils down to that, which is an all-encompassing word, okay? And it's definitely one of the biggest hindrances in this business and every other business, okay? And the reason why I can pretty much dumb it down to this slide is because it basically encapsulates everything, okay? And what happens when it does is that, I can make light of it and just say fear, but the reality of it is you basically said what happens if all this business comes, that's the success part of it. You basically said, what happens if I do this for a year and I don't get anything? There's the failure part of it. And then a couple of you were, I'm not sure what I'm doing. There's a million things, but this is, yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to understand, I am so sorry.
Gonzalo.
What's your?
Gonzalo, yes.
Gonzalo?
Yes,
So how long have you been in the business?
almost 4 years.
So my jaw essentially dropped when you were expressing feel like I do this for a year and nothing happens, and I'm like, 4 years, but you should be like jamming. So from a new person, and you have this fear, I'm trying to understand and wrap my brain around it, because I'm thinking, okay, 4 years, everybody will tell me nothing.
You know, I think what it is you have some agents, so if you talk to agents that are producing like 10 million plus,
Okay,
most of them have been in the business for about 10 years.
okay.
Now, if you really look deep into it, you have agents that come to the office with no real estate background. Within a year, boom, 8 million, 10 million.
Melissa.
You got other agents that come to the office and it takes them 3 years. It's really how long it takes it clicks that you have to give it your all, and it's going to work. For me, it has been times that for 2-3 months I work really hard, I see things happening, and then and then I tell myself maybe I can do better, and then I go back to like the drawing board, and then I get off track. I feel like every agent is different, and you're right. I should be doing a lot more. It's just like I get off track.
The other thing I zoomed in on in your comment was getting up at 4 and going to the gym. I was like, yes, somebody who wants to also be healthy as well as successful in other areas of life. And so.
Jason is one of them.
What?
He works out in the morning and then.
Well, because I think the success is it's beyond the scope of this office. You're either vibing in a good way, or you're frustrated in one aspect of your life, and it's throwing you off on every other aspect.
Yeah.
You know, which is a whole nother topic. We could spend a year on it. You know, but that definitely plays out because, you know, like I said in the last session, you know, if you're having a problem in another aspect of your life and then trying to have conversations about real estate, they're seeing that, they're feeling that tonality is coming out. You know, you can't hide that stuff. So here's my little triangle. You know, the whole, this is the problem with it's not a problem, but this is this is the reality of this business. So everything that you guys are saying, this is how it translates. You get all fired up about time blocking, scheduling, lead generating, okay? And then you think about all these possibilities or these great ideas you have, and then within 30 seconds, you psych yourself out of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's this incredible thing that happens to probably every single person. So like in Gonzalo's case, he's not giving it a chance to work out, okay? Yet. Now he's finally saying, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see how it plays out. Instead of getting all fired up about it, doing it for a month, not seeing any results, and then trashing the whole thing that you planned, he's actually going to give it the amount of time and you know, all those things that John Dietz talks about, you know, planting the seed and giving it years to grow and, you know, all that stuff. All I'm saying is if you're gonna work hard, come to all these meetings, listen to all the information, subscribe to the theories and the models, make a plan to do it, and then abandon it 2 weeks later, then you're going to be in this crazy nonsense the whole time, where there's always self-doubt, you're always, you know, concerned. Because see, what happens in this business is that unfortunately nobody stays in their own lane in this business, okay? So like for instance, if you guys made a plan after coming to 1 billion classes that KW offers, if you guys made a plan that this is what I'm going to do. I haven't done this before, but I'm going to get up at 5 in the morning. I'm going to go for a walk for a mile. I'm going to come home, I'm going to have a cup of coffee, I'm going to read the paper, I'm going to catch up on the news, I'm going to answer my emails, I'm going to take a shower, go to the office, start lead generating. I'm going to make sure I have a couple of one-on-ones, make sure I meet a few clients, make sure I add 5 people to the database. You have this crazy plan, right? a good plan, a filled plan, a calendar with colors and everything, okay? Now, here's how that plan gets derailed. You walk in, you're fired up, and then you see another agent who just started miraculously closing $1 million deal, having done nothing that you just planned. That type of stuff throws a wrench in everything you just did, because now you're just watching them. You don't know anything about that deal. That could have been their mom, their cousin, anything. All right? But that, all of a sudden, you're willing to walk in and say, how is this happening? I'm going to be doing all this, and this person just walked in here and is going to make 30 grand, and they've been here for an hour and a half, and I've been here for 3 months figuring this out, coming to every class. First of all, you wouldn't be doing this if you weren't watching them. All right, so I would say it's very easy to tell you guys to do this, but nobody does it. If you just stay in your own lane and worry about running your own marathon, you'll be fine. It's when you get all of this that then this thing becomes a freaking reality TV show, which is just it will make you crazy. And like I said last time, or probably every session, the majority of your commissions will end up going to therapy. Because you'll never get out of the mindset that you're doing better, which is why I keep coming in with the idea that if you rate yourself, regardless of whether you're a 1, a 2, a 5, as long as you're getting better, that's the only metric. That's the metric. The metric is not how you're doing versus Gonzalo. Okay? If I'm married with kids and I need $500,000 to fortify my lifestyle, and Gonzalo's 20 years old, just graduated from college or high school or something, no kids, loves going out at night, needs 80 grand we have different lifestyles. Nothing is the same. Okay? Why you would compare yourself to somebody else in this firm is beyond. Compare yourself to you, and that's the end of it. Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, when you had the slide up that had it, the rate yourself part, I guess a part of why I said, well, I'm pretty high up there, because that to me opens the door for negative self-talk. And so as long as I know I'm doing my best, like I'm brand new. There's so much that I don't know, but I'm here and I'm learning from not only these classes, but the conversations, and I'm just trying to keep it positive, and that's what I
Well, you should. Positive and real. I mean...
Go ahead, finish your statement.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I need to keep it real. Gonzalo, this guy, ever since he's come in and I've been here, I don't think anybody gets more cheers for peers than him for everything he does. Now I hear out of his voice a little bit of fear of what's going on. And then when you read this statement, or the second sentence, you were pumped up and excited, but then the waves of fear and doubt washed over and drowning out the hope. And now I hear Gonzalez saying, well, now I hope in the year my goals I actually reach. Now this is a guy who not only makes videos and put them up, but he actually jumped off a boat into the Intercoastal, making a video. Whether it was real or not doesn't matter.
I think it has 30 million views.
But the whole thing was, I'm going for that listing. He didn't pull up to the dock. He just jumped off the boat. Of course, when I saw him the next day, I thought I'd never do that, man. He'd get killed himself. But are you just doing this to the last video, or are you just a little down about something?
He said that he had the fear. Now he's pick something.
Because he's like one of the guys that new people would emulate after and go.
No, but you know what? Here's the thing. The thing is that I understand where Gonzalo is coming from, because it's very easy to try something, not see it working out, and then self-doubt creeps in. And as the months continue, you're saying to yourself, well, do I want to spend more time working on this? Because the issue becomes, not that he's not focused, but he's now hoping that he's not focused on the wrong thing, and he wants to right the ship. You know, so, but I think what the problem with that thinking is that you're discounting how much thought went into putting the plan together in the first place. You know, when you really put together a good, solid plan,
stick to it.
You know, and you got to have a lot of confidence and faith in that. You know, and it's not something where you can just simply say, you know, put this whole thing together and then it doesn't work in 60, 90 days and you just abandon it. Now, I think at this point, based on what you said, you're of the mindset now that you're going to give things more time to work out, you know? And I think that if you do that, one of two things happens. Either it starts to work or you get real clear on what doesn't work and you'll never do it again. And so if it takes you 4 years or 5 years, right, instead of somebody that fast tracks in maybe a year, who cares? You figured it out. Most people don't.
Most people don't.
If you figure it out, you're doing much better than most people. Because most people won't put in the work. Most people want to come in and be upset because somebody else who didn't earn it somehow surpassed them. Who cares? Those are, you know, one-offs. You're going to see a million one-offs come in this office. The consistency is the key to the whole thing. You know how many times you see somebody on the board and you're like, who is that? That's the one-off.
It's not that they didn't earn it. It's just that they were in the right place.
Right, exactly. But why you would care is irrelevant. Forget about that. Short memory. All right? So, can you guys relate to that? I mean, does everybody get that? You understand that that's just like a hamster wheel that you're gonna abandon all normalcy and jump on that hamster wheel, and it's going to drive you absolutely batty.
You know, there's a short story from the Fort Lauderdale office. It was almost 2 years ago, maybe, that a young kid comes into the business, and he was concentrating because he heard over dinner there was this guy selling his small shopping center at a 10% commissionable rate on both sides. He stood to make $500,000. Not only did he get the listing, but he also sold it and got the $500,000. Hasn't done a thing since. And if the government takes $250,000 from you, give or take, he's left with $250,000, but now he's been living off of it. So what has he really done? He's got lucky.
Which is more to the point about consistency.
Exactly.
You know, the whole thing is to be consistent, which is why that's what they try and teach in Bold. The whole thing about Bold when you go is not, I made 20 contacts. That's not what they're driving at, just so you understand. The idea is that the consistency is calling or connecting. If you get 20, 4, 3, 2, it doesn't matter. The fact that you would go and do it and create the habit of making sure you're contacting somebody, however you contact them, coffee, phone calls, expireds, texts, Facebook, social, whatever constitutes a contact. The idea of getting into the regimen of knowing you have to make contacts to survive in the business, the numbers are the numbers. If you're any good at all and you do it with consistency, the numbers will be there.
But if you get 20 contacts a day and you cultivate 5, you, at the end of the year, probably have a business going.
So here's what I want to say about fear and why I kind of dumb it down to just one thing and not a million different adjectives. Okay? So here's how I would define it. You know, and so like it's really a medical term, but if you look at or a mathematical term, but if you look at encapsulation, I mean basically it's the essential features of something. All right? Fear encapsulates all of it. All right? And so like when I look at that, you know, everybody mentions something that's applicable. The confidence, the self-doubt, you know, feeling intimidated, overwhelmed, I can't even read. Unworthy. Who said, you know, you don't even know if there's too much business that's going to come in, you know. Feeling less than, feeling uneasy, feeling unprepared. You know, there's a million things, and they all stoke fear. All of it. everybody is in some level, irrespective of how much money they're making, at some level, there's not a person in here that is not fearful of something at any given time. And the reason why I underlined feeling unprepared is that's kind of my nemesis. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm going to show you this so you kind of understand how I'm wired a little bit. So, you know, has anybody ever like thought about what their dreams mean?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm 50 years old. I have had the same recurring dream for decades. And this is the dream. I copied this from someone else, but it was so close to mine that I just wanted to explain this to you. Okay. It's this whole dream about being unprepared. Okay, about how I'm in school. Now I graduated high school in 1987, graduated college in 1992, graduated law school in 1995. So I'm 05, 15, 24 years removed from school. And I am still having dreams that I'm missing a class, not going to graduate, all these whacked out things, okay? So I started looking into it just as to why. And basically, it's this anxiety. And I believe that that's what kind of propels me to always be prepared every day, because I'm constantly nerve-wracked by the idea that, you know, and I swear I will literally go through in my head in this dream, like, how am I going to catch up in this class? How am I going to, and then I wake up and I'm like, I'm not in high school, I'm not in college, I graduated, I go through all these crazy moronic emotions.
And then you have to wake up and take exams.
No, I don't, but I mean, if you need one, that's fine. I'm not judging, we're not judging, we're keeping it real. So that part of feeling unprepared falls into the subset, or is a subset of the fear, because I'm like, you know, and so what I've figured out is that no matter where you are, no matter what level you're at, you're going to experience fear at every level, and the only way is to transform it. You know, you have to just figure out how to make it, how to lessen it, and how to accept it, and how to move forward, and how to make it work for you. Okay? So what did I do? Okay? So here's what I did. In real time, what do I do like this year? All right? So the first thing I did was I joined this lunatic. At 5 a.m. You know, Tara, Jay, you need to be part of this group. Can you chime in every morning at 5 a.m. and say hello and send us a pretty picture? And
a pretty picture of what?
You have to prove that you're up.
Oh, great.
And
sure, Mrs. Kapit wants to be proven she's up.
And and it's amazing though. That really helps me, because, you know, if you have that feeling that you're anxious, a lot of it's because you feel unprepared. Mm-hmm. If you're getting up 3 hours earlier than you normally would, you can get a lot of stuff done. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that was the first thing that I did. And I'm usually pretty prepared, but when I got up at 5, you know, it's very quiet, it's really dark. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the rest of the world is sleeping.
Exactly. And I got up and I started answering some emails, started going through some things, started writing a few things down that I wanted to write that I needed to get accomplished, getting a little bit more organized. So, you know, the benefit is that by 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I felt less overwhelmed than I normally do. You know, by 7:30, when I probably get up a little bit earlier than that, but by 7:30 I'm already basically ready to go for the day, and I'm feeling a lot more accomplished, a lot less anxious. So that was one of the ways that I was combating that crazy recurring dream. The next way was that I just ended up getting a MAPS coach. Now, I'm not plugging MAPS. I'm just saying the idea that you could speak to somebody about things and kind of have somebody saying yay or nay or giving you ideas about stuff was helpful to me. In kind of the same way like with Gonzalo. Like if let's say Gonzalo had a coach, right? Instead of worrying, should he just throw everything to the wind and stop doing what he's doing, he might present it to the coach and the coach would be like, no, you're doing everything right. Keep the pedal down. Let's do this. And then he would have somebody that was confirming. So he wasn't second guessing. So those types of stuff help me with anxiety when I have somebody that is not biased. You can't talk to your mom or somebody that is going to say everything you do is great. I could murder somebody. My mom would be like, they deserved it. You can't go there. But if you go there with a third party, an objective person, like a coach, my coach is in Oregon, so they don't know me from Adam. I met them one time at Mega Camp, and if I'm not doing something correctly, I'll be like, listen, man, this is not the way to do this. This is the path you're on. This is the path you need to be on. And they're just like, right the ship a little bit quicker. Now, do you need a MAPS coach? I don't know, but you may at least want to formulate a group. Just to go and have coffee with a couple people, whether it's other agents that have your back or other people in respect of other businesses that care about you and would tell you the truth. And then the third thing that I've been doing is just being brutally honest with myself. And like I said, like the first day that either the first session or the second session, we talked about marginal gains, 1%.
Session 1.
Are you making marginal gains every day? It's not enough to make a marginal gain and then we're done. That's like Wayne said, the guy that comes in and does a $500,000 deal and hasn't done a deal in 400 days, What good is that? That could be the person whose uncle bought a shopping center. Now he's on the board. You've been doing all the work. You see this guy is number one, and all of a sudden that's going to derail your whole career. You know nothing about this person. Okay? Zero. The idea is if you're consistent, I'll be on the board this month. I'll be on the board next month. Next month. I'll come in here. I was a 6. Now I'm a 7. I'm being honest with myself. Blah, 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 blah. If you can keep doing that, everything takes care of itself. The one and dones don't make it in this business. When 4 or 5 years ago, I had an agent on my team at EWM, and he was upset because he felt like I wasn't doing right by him. He was brand new. And he said, you know what, Jay, if you don't give me this split, if you don't do this for me, I'm going off the team. I said, listen, you just got here. Well, yeah, but I have a lot of business and I have a lot of contacts. Okay, that's great. Let's see what you got. So he went out and he had a family friend that bought a $7 million condo on Brickell. Okay?
Oh, just a condo?
$7 million. All right?
It's pricey.
And before it closed, he said, is this good enough? I said, it's great. It's one deal. I'm really happy for you. But it's one deal. And he had nothing else going on. Nothing. And I don't think he was too happy with my response.
He wasn't.
So he quit the team, moved his license before it closed, took his commission. I was out of the deal. Has not done one thing in 5 years.
You know what that $7 million deal is divided by 5? It's poverty.
You know, so what I'm saying is like at the beginning, at the beginning, everybody's saying, Jay, you know what? You just lost out on a lot of money. I said, I'm not going to fight the kid over this. If this is what he really wants to do and this is the true colors, take care. And he left. That was the end of it. And that's the end of, that's the one and done nonsense mentality. Now, if you were a KW, where you see people on the board all day long and, all these pretty photographs, you would look at this kid and be like, wow, this kid must be a monster. $7 million at Brickell? Now, can you imagine if his whole career at KW, you were the agent that got pissed because you saw him come in one day, do a $7 million deal, and then for 60 months in a row, he was never on the board again. That's what it was. That cannot be the thing that derails you guys. Because that's, a lot of people are like that. If you have good contacts, you could theoretically go and buy and represent somebody who wants to buy a multi-million-dollar condo. That doesn't mean that you're not a good realtor. That means that they had a good contact. That's all that it means. Believe me, that's all that it means. Okay, so if you want to be hard on yourself, be hard on yourself about getting contacts, not about your ability to do well in real estate.
I love it. He threw a $7 million deal in your face. He wasn't even real about it. And if it was at the top line of everything and 6% commission, it was a $420,000 commission. If somebody else sold it, it was split. It was $220,000. If he did nothing for 5 years, it averages to $42,000 a year gross. He basically needs Obamacare.
Thank you, Wayne.
That's keeping it real. Those are the numbers.
I got it, man. So that's basically right now my formula. Okay, like what I'm doing, what I'm really doing. I'm getting up earlier. I'm speaking to my coach. I'm being honest with myself. I think most of you that know me know I really don't have much of an ego. And I don't think it really matters if you do or you don't, but I don't. But that, the idea is that's my formula. You got to figure out what's going to work for you. Whatever's going to work for you has to be consistent. I'm getting up consistently every day, and yes, like Shrey said, I go to the gym. I do certain things throughout the day because it makes me feel better, which translates to me doing better, talking more, sounding better when I speak to people, so you guys have to figure out what your formula is. And if there's any homework, I would say do that. Figure out what you're going to do that you could really stay consistent with. And it doesn't have to be a million things. It could be 2 or 3 things, but you got to stay consistent with it. That's the mantra. I mean, it really is simple. It's just not easy because there's just so many things that get in the way. Mentally, emotionally, financial. There's a million things that get in the way. Somebody could walk in here and rub you the wrong way and it could screw your entire day up, which is one of the big reasons why I joined this particular office. Because I just like the vibe and the culture of the office. I told you guys this before. You go out and you're basically fighting and butting heads all day long with other people, when you walk in here and you have somebody like Ellie and disarming you and smiling when you walk in, it's very helpful. Very helpful. Because this is not a business, this is not an easy business. So what did we learn? Well, overcoming fear is key. Every hurdle that you have somehow relates back to fear. Believe me, it does. It's not about selling. If you can get past the idea that it's not about selling, you'll really take off. This really has everything to do with the mindset and habits and just doing things consistently. and that you need to come up with a formula that works for you. I mean, it sounds so crazy, but if you guys could come up with 2 or 3 things that you would be willing to do every single day, your freaking real estate career will change. But you got to do it. It's not enough for somebody to tell you do this and you say, I will do this. You have to figure out, what do I like? There's a reason why they give you a disc and a KPA here, because they're trying to figure out what you like to do, not what they want you to do, what you like. If you don't like to make phone calls to expireds, you're not going to do it. But there's got to be something that you do like. You know, whether that be networking, organizing functions, something that you actually are passionate about. Whatever that is, you have to weave in the business. But you have to do it, and you have to do it consistently. You can't do it once a month. You have to do it every day. Every day. So you just have to figure out what it is. Once you do, things will get a lot easier. There'll be a lot of less self-doubt creeping in. You'll smile a lot more. You'll be less agitated. Your day will it'll be easier, and by default, you'll attract more business. You know, when you're not looking for it, that's when it comes. When you're so desperate, it just doesn't work like that. The universe doesn't work like that. So that's all I have today. I don't know if you guys have any questions. I'm sorry I kept you 10 minutes late, and I'm sorry I got here 10 minutes late as well. But I always strive to keep it within the hour. And of course, it'll be on YouTube. But I'm happy to answer anything, and I'm happy also to incorporate any topics that you guys want in the coming sessions as well, because I feel like I could talk on a lot of different things, but you know, sometimes I just think like what I'm dealing with at the time, and then I make that the topic.
From your experience, because you've been doing this a long time, how do you stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing? Because there's so many things that could happen in life that could derail you, throw you in a different direction. You always get back to where you're supposed to be.
Because you I mean, it's a good question, but I would say that when somebody asks me a question like that, I feel like what they do is they're more inclined to just drop everything for one thing. I'm not inclined to drop everything for one thing. I'm inclined to pay attention to it, but I'm just not inclined to drop everything. Like, I have family like that. Like, they're working, they're doing this, they're doing that. Something happens that is completely unrelated to their life. They want to prioritize it. You know, could be political. You know, they might not like something that was said on CNN or Fox. This throws a whole wrench into their day for like 48 hours. In that scenario,
ignore it.
Okay? In that scenario, you have to acknowledge it and go back. Because see, in my world, as opposed to what you're saying, I acknowledge it, but I also know what the priority is. That is the difference between somebody like what you're saying and me, is that there's one extra step that I have when that happens. And so something crazy will happen over here. It'll completely become a distraction. Mm-hmm. But then before I throw out everything and attend to that, I will ask the question, which is the priority? And then I will decide with kind of just like a level head. This is still the priority. This is not great, but this is the priority. Get back to this and figure out how to navigate between the two. But I won't just throw one out to the detriment of myself and my family when I know that certain things have to be done. What I will do is I will focus intently on the task at hand to get it done sooner so that I can get to that. But not that first to the detriment of this. Most people will do that. Because the reason that they do that is because they don't love what this is.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're trying to figure out how to get away from that. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I think you have to treat it as a job. Like if you were going to work for somebody, you're not gonna just be able to like not do your job. So you have, for me, it's scheduling. Like I'm bad. Like I need to put on paper what I need to do for the day. And when I do it, I do much better.
Right, and you feel better, and you feel better.
Yeah.
You know,
Feel
I
like
mean,
you've accomplished.
right? You know, I mean, you know, there's a lot to what, or like what she's saying is true. Like if you were employees, you don't have a lot of say in your day. You know, you're signing up for something, and you are accountable to someone. Difference between being an independent contractor, like we all are, and the employee is that the employee is accountable to the employer. The IC, the employee, is accountable to the employer, but the IC's employer is the IC, okay? So you are accountable to yourself. Now, if you hold yourself accountable, you're going to be fine. Most people don't. Well, you know what? I'll get to that when I get to it. I got to go.
That's called structure.
You know, so that's the part that's the hardest part. You know, and you have to say to yourself, if you really want to take it a step further, so if you took yourself out of the IC and made yourself an employee, same job, okay, and you were also your employer, with all these things, you got to go on this many calls, and would you keep yourself hired or would you fire yourself based on performance now? If the answer to that is there's no way I would keep this person, or there was no way I would hire somebody that is like this, then you got to change things around. Because remember, think about it from the standpoint of you building a team. Based on what you're doing now, if your team members emulated you, would you be okay? If the answer to that is yes, you're doing good. If the answer to that is no, you got to keep tweaking, big time. Because one of the reasons why I'm so slow to hire on my team is because I don't want anybody coming on the team that is even remotely going to start with bad habits. And if a lot of time I'm stretched, so I don't want them doing anything that, you know, I have high demands of myself, but some of the people that are on my team, they're not all the way there yet. I can't have those guys teaching when they can't even set the standard. You know, so the standard's high. If the standard's high for you, you got to hold yourself to the same standard. Because all they're going to do when you hire people on your team is they're going to look to you. If you're not doing the work, if you're not setting the standard, they're going to be like, what am I doing here? You know? So, I don't know. That was the long-winded answer. That was the Trelando answer.
Yeah, the short answer is any team is only as strong as its weakest link.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Things which have worked for you, have you consistently done the same things last 17 years? No,
because you know that's the hard part of the business. For whatever works, I mean, certain things are tried and true. You know, follow up must. That's like one of the most important things for me. Like I will never not follow up, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent. I will never not call somebody because I don't want to get the call. I'd rather call than get the call. But 16 years in the business, a million things have changed. You know, when I first started out, I was huge into print media. It's 0% of my business now. You know, so I have tweaked a lot. And so I've had to like roll with the times and change. And there's a lot of people that are better at social media and all that stuff. And I'm constantly. That's why it's key. That's why I like the firm, because it's so learning based. There are avenues where I'm weak. You know, if you're younger, you're 25, 30, you have a leg up from that perspective. You're used to the computers. You're used to every social media thing. You're used to Snapchat, TikTok, whatever. Okay? I mean, I can't even keep up with all this stuff, but it's all relevant and it's all real. I was at somebody's house yesterday, okay, who's a client. The kid, okay, has monetized TikTok. 770,000 followers. Okay? This girl, the daughter, who's like 14, she says to me, "How many followers do you have?" First of all, I had to explain to her I don't even have TikTok.
Then
When she says, how many followers do you have on Facebook? I think I told her like 400. Now, 773,000. Okay? It's not even fair. Okay? But that's the reality.
Yeah.
Like, they have changed the game. So I'm just trying to learn the game a little bit. What is it? Exactly. Thank you, Craig. It's just like the newest thing, like the evolution of, you know how if you talk to kids, they'll be like, I'm not even on Facebook. Facebook's for adults.
Yeah.
You know, it's now.
Because they went to Instagram, but now it's TikTok.
Now, if you look up TikTok, it's like the biggest thing ever now.
Is that like Snapchat?
And now Fox News is all over it because they're saying that it's a Chinese company and they're taking everybody's data. It's a big mess. But the bottom line is that, you know, there's Facebook, and then there's Instagram, and then there's Twitter, and then there's LinkedIn, and then there's TikTok, and then there's Snapchat, and then, you know, tomorrow there's going to be another thing. You know, it's the same thing in real estate. That's why Gary inserted himself back in as the CEO. Because he knows how fast this is changing. And he wants to be right at the forefront, not to lose time. He could have normally just stepped down and just retired and said, okay, you guys run this. He basically reinserted himself. He wasn't the CEO 2 years ago. He pulled himself out. Now he's back in. It's him and Josh. And he's like, you know what? There's too much going on. I don't want to be even remotely apart from this. And he's back in. So the answer is I'm doing a lot of things differently. And every September and every October, I'm tweaking the model. Because I don't like starting January all over the place. I'm figuring out what works, what didn't work. Kind of like what Gonzalo was doing, but I give it 7, 8, 9 months throughout the year. And then I'll say, okay, you know what, this didn't work, this did work. You know.
All these 17 years, whenever there was this transition in the business, or needed to be on top of it, did your business go down? Yeah, sometimes it did. I mean, so there's a bunch of ebb and flows, but you know, if like maybe I can't remember what session I talked about, you know, Bill Belichick, the coach of the Patriots, you know, just to kind of just never get too high or too low, because you kind of have to anticipate that things are not always going to go perfect, and you don't need to be celebrating when things go crazy. Like, there are a lot of agents that when that guy walked with the $7 million deal and left me, because I would have made money off that, you know, they could have gone crazy. You know, and that could have just derailed them, and, you know, they were on full tilt for a year over that. I just said, all right, take care. Now, that guy did the exact opposite of what I did. Okay, so what I did was I knew that a lot of money was just left my pocket. But I didn't get too down on myself because it was going to be a toxic environment with this guy. Now, he left and went the exact opposite route. Celebratory, crazy.
It's got no money left.
Okay, right? So I was here, just let it go. And he was partying. And where did, you know, I've just kind of crawled back and he's wherever. You know, it's not, I just prefer to keep it here.
Consistent.
This type of stuff doesn't work. I've had horrible years and I've had tremendous years. But if you just stay consistent and just stay learning based and just consistently tweak the model and stay consistent with things that work, it's a pretty easy system.
Peaks and valleys will give you an ulcer. Consistent, it's good.
Anything else?
So when you moved on to $1 million, realtor, at that point of time, was it a gradual transition or like organic, or was it?
Yeah, it was totally organic. It was clients. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't me saying I'm going from a $400,000 house to $1 million house. It was my clients buying the house, mm-hmm. the ones that originally bought the $200,000 or $300,000 house. You know, so then, you know what, Jay, it's time.
I made some money. Let's go find a house. I'm looking for 800,000 or 900,000. Oh, rates are good. Let me stretch to $1 million. Now all of a sudden I'm meeting agents that are selling $1 million homes. So all of a sudden those are new contacts for me. It's not like I just said I have to do this, because if you could say that, everybody would just say, I have to sell $10 million houses. Let's go down to Fisher Island.
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
The 200 to 500.
I mean, it's good and bad. It's good and bad. Like what Wayne's saying. The truth of the matter is that 6 months from now, selling $200,000 to $500,000 is going to be where it's at. If you were at the stats report, thank you. If you were at the stats report yesterday, you see those charts. The ones that are $1 million or higher are going to be sitting on the market for 3, 4, 500 days. I just listed a property today. I told the guy it's going to take a while. It's $3.5 million.
Where is it?
Southwest Ranches. $3.5 million. How long is it going to take you to sell? A long time.
Unless you sell to a sports figure with that kind of money, it's going to take a while.
Is it, well, you know what, Jay, you get all these $3 million houses. Okay, fine. So what's the difference? The difference is there is no difference. Here's the difference. If Melissa does 10 deals, right, last month at $300,000, there it is. That's my deal. It just takes me longer. It might be a little bit less work, still the same amount of headaches, because now I got to deal with the client for 10 months. I got to go back and forth and have these conversations. Why it hasn't sold. So that it's just as frustrating, just as anxiety causing. It's just a different type of anxiety. Hers is 10 different deals, 10 different inspections, 10 different appraisals. Mine is every day talking with the client, explaining what's going on. It's the same business, the same volume, different problems, different ways to deal with them. When the market's good and $3.5 million are selling, my business is easier, but they all come with different challenges. But I don't peg somebody who sells $5 million houses as any more capable than somebody that sells $200,000 or $300,000 houses. It's just what works for them and where they're comfortable and where they're doing best at. I wouldn't look at it as a metric like, well, when you get better, you might not want it. It's a lot of mental expended energy, babysitting clients and talking to them, and it is difficult. It is difficult. Melissa might have to deal with an inspection report coming back bad or an appraisal coming back out. But from the client standpoint, when you list a house and it goes under contract in 48 hours, the client's happy as hell. The conversation that gets unnerved with the client is when the inspection comes back bad or the appraisal comes back under. But that's not Melissa's fault. That's just a function of the actual deal. Okay? In a situation where I'm trying to sell a house and it's multi-million dollar, many millions of dollars, and it's not selling, I could say all day long, I told you this was going to happen, but from the client's perspective, it's got to be me.
Exactly. That's Jason's telling the truth. If I'm Jason's client, they need a link. Jason picked up the book. Jason, it's been 4 weeks now, and you haven't brought one person into the house.
Which is why I said early before, I'm always making the calls because I don't want the calls. So I will always reach out, good, bad, or indifferent, and say, just want to let you know this is what's going on. Because I know when my phone rings, they're going to be like, I don't know why you're not answering, Jay. And then after the phone call comes, then the text comes, and the email comes, and everything comes. Let me just nip that right now. We make calls every week. Here's what's going on. Here's what's not going on. Here's what we think you should do. If you have any questions, call. But I want to be the person that's being proactive. The reactive agent doesn't work.
They're always in trouble.
Darting calls, sending things to voicemail, you'll be out of a job with that person.
You'll be out of business.
You can't. So you kind of got to be careful what you wish for. Sometimes when things aren't selling, I'm like thinking, if I had a $200,000 or $300,000 house to sell, that'd be great. You got income coming in, it's not as much as a $3 million house, but it's consistent. And then sometimes you'll talk to the agents and they'll be like, oh my God, this inspection just went off the rails, or this didn't appraise, and then I say to myself, well, my job's hard, but that's a nightmare too. You just kind of got to be careful what you wish for.
That's going to happen. You see, when you get a bad inspection on a $3 million house, it's probably even worse.
It's probably worse, but the difference is that the owners will make it up.
And they'll pay for it because they have the money.
So anybody else?
I have one more.
How would you define success? As
How would you
mentioned?
define success?
I mean, I want to talk to somebody or ask him who I consider successful.
His needs for success, family, life, $1 million home, Porsches, are a lot more expensive than yours.
He's my agent. He's my proxy. He talks for me.
But it's true. He said it at the beginning of the.
No, I mean, define success. I mean, it's look, define success is. It's kind of an open-ended question. It's a good question. It not the bank account. I don't look at it like that. I just look at it, do I sleep well at night? Are my kids happy? Do I feel good? Do I smile a lot? I feel like a lot of those things, the answer would be no if I wasn't making money. Because of the fact that I make a decent amount of money, I can do certain things that alleviate a lot of those concerns. But, I also look at a lot of people that have a lot of money who define success as a lot of money, and those are not the people that I'm closest with because I just don't vibe that well with that type of person. And that's not a knock on them, It's just not my thing. My thing is just more about taking care of your family and making sure everybody's kind of just feeling good. If you can do that and make money, you're really doing well, especially if you like what you're doing. Right. I have a number of friends and colleagues that make 10 times what I make, and they absolutely hate what they do. Right. So if you ask them, are they successful? From a financial standpoint, they're knocking it out of the park. But from a day in, day out life,
they're miserable.
Yeah. So it's like a trade-off, I like to have an even balance. I would always like to say I'd like to make more money because money, if you've ever heard Mark Olish or any of these guys that talk about it, money is good for the good it can do, that type of thing. It's very helpful. Anybody that says that, money doesn't make you happy, they haven't made much. You need money to sustain. But applied the right way, it's a much more satisfying life. My kids are good, wife's good, house is good. Do I go months where I'm like, I can't believe this deal didn't close, and it's very nerve-wracking, because like I said, I'm 50 years old. So when you've kind of lived like I've lived, I rack up expenses. I have certain things and obligations that I'm used to that I don't want to forego anymore. So if I don't have good years, something has to go. And for me, I'm not gonna let that affect my kids. So what I'll do is I'll let it affect me a little bit more. There are certain people that, for them, they're first and everybody else is secondary. In my personal life, I'll take the hit and I'll make sure that they're good. From that standpoint, I feel successful that I can do that for them. But still, when I come in here and I'm not having a good month or I'm not having a good quarter, like third quarter for me was not good. And you know, there's a million things I could attribute it to, but it just, at the end of the day, it just wasn't good compared to my first and second. And it doesn't make me feel good, and that can weigh on you because it doesn't matter how many years you've been doing it and how many years you've been successful. When it's very short-lived. So it's like whatever's happening now is what you're thinking about the most. So when you're not closing deals, you're thinking, when is this going to end? You know, when is this going to stop? And I still think like that, you know, and that just propels me to do more now, which is why I got the coach, which is why I get up at 5 a.m, which is why I'm just, you know, a masochist when it comes to just wanting to just make sure that that is not the normal consistent feeling. The normal consistent feeling is what I wanted the first 6 months, because the first 6 months it was like gangbusters, you know. But you know, July, August, September were weak. Even in my standards, they were weak. You know, I'm not going to define success based on a quarter. I'm going to define it based on the whole thing. Not even the year, even longer than that. You know, so that I would say if you're not feeling like you're successful,
change something.
It's not even that. Just give it some time. You know, don't look at it in such a micro. Look at the whole spectrum. How are you doing outside of the office? How are you doing in life? How are you doing with your family? You know, how are you doing just in everything? I don't define success straight from the business of real estate.
Right.
We can be out of real estate, you know? Would that mean you're not longer a success?
Right.
You know, I mean, I just refuse to just have one aspect of my life define the type of person that I am.
That's how Warren Buffett also defines is that how many people love him. And that's like, he just calculates or like he thinks or defines success as that how many people, you know, love him, look up to him, and care about him. And that's how he defines.
So that's good. And he's got the money.
Yeah.
Boy,
Right.
does he ever.
He's got a few dollars, you know, but I mean, listen, I'm not here to tell you that my way is the way to think about it, but I'm just saying, like, it's too easy to get down on yourself in this business.
Right.
You know, every day is a new day, seriously.
Yeah.
You come in here, you could have tomorrow, you could have 0 deals today, you could walk out, you could go to a bar, somebody could say, I want you to come list my house, you come in here, you have a deal.
And then the worst nightmare ever, you wish you hadn't met him.
And you could go off of Wayne's crazy nonsense right there, you know, and look at the negative of it.
No, it wasn't negative. It can happen.
It could, but it might
I
not.
went to the guy who sells me my clothes. Okay, let's get real. And I listed his house after his sister-in-law
Stole my
did a
mantra
horrible-
too.
I didn't sell it once. I didn't sell it twice. I didn't sell it 3 times. I'm now on the 4th sale of it. I got him more money than he wanted. The inspection came back fine. The appraisal came back good. We are going to close. It was on or before December 2nd. Now, everyone may want to close sooner than that.
Hope you guys like the
but
shot.
out of my hands, they're subject to the